you told me before the show, you said, I have a crazy record prediction, better than you'd expect. I asked if it was better than 10-7. You said yes. I told you to hold off because there was no chance I wanted to hear that until we were live on here. So I'm very excited for it. Let's go through the games. Let's go through this schedule and dive into what the Steelers' outcome could be. We'll start right off the jump here. Week 1 in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. First game, Kirk Cousins, Atlanta Falcons, win or loss.
I have that as a win. You know, Kirk Cousins in his first game, sure, you're on the road, but I still think that the Steelers are a superior roster than the Atlanta Falcons, and I still think they get a win on the road.
Yeah, me too. I'm going win against the Falcons. I'm sorry, Falcons are not going to, they're not a challenge to me yet. They're not a challenge to the NFL yet. I get it. They drafted Michael Penix. I'd be more scared of them if they use that draft pick on somebody worthy of playing for their team right now than a backup quarterback that's going to sit there for 4 years and may never start in the NFL for them. But here they are. That being said, did you see the Kirk Cousins well, we talked about it yesterday. Crazy times. All right, week 2 in Denver. That should have been a primetime game. You winning that one? Russ revenge game, back-to-back revenge games.
Russ revenge game against Bo Nix. I mean, at best, if it's anybody else, then certainly. Yeah. But yeah, I have that as a win as well.
Yeah, my buddy just flew in. Everybody kind of knows at this point I'm heading to my bachelor party this weekend. He just flew in from Denver, and we're driving back from the airport last night, and he goes, "Dude, Russ revenge game against Bo Nix." And I was like, "Yep, easy win. I think that's going to be one of the most brutal wins the Steelers will put out. I think it'll be devastating for the Broncos. Hey, it'll be a game. I'm going to call it now. It'll be a game where people in Denver start to question if Sean Payton was the right move or not. That's how bad it's going to be. I expect them to absolutely destroy the Denver Broncos. Then they come back home opener against the Chargers. Who you got?
And that one, I have the Steelers taking their first L. I mean, there's going to be some L's that
first
you're not
L at home.
But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some L's that you're not expecting in this season, and I think the Chargers are one of them. I mean, I look at that Chargers team under actual leadership with a new head coach. Justin Herbert is still Justin Herbert, and giving him an actual coach and an actual team around him. I know it's not great, but I do think that the Steelers, after being up 2-0, I think they're going to fall in that one in week 3.
Wow. That one stunned me. I was not expecting that. That one stunned me. I'm going to go win. I think Acrisure Stadium is going to be bumping. I think the Steelers are going to be rolling. I think they're going to be feeling good. I think the Chargers are going to be a better team. I do, but I think the Steelers are going to be a better team too. I think the Steelers are a more superior power in the AFC North or in the AFC in general, and I think they'll take that one. That one got me. Stunner. I'm now to know that you are a higher record than 10-7 with a loss to the Chargers. I am very interested to see where this schedule breakdown goes. All right, next week, week 4 in Indianapolis. Hopefully the first time they get to play Anthony Richardson. Who you got?
I have the Steelers taking that one. I thought they should have beaten the Colts last year in Indy, and I do think the Colts are going to be much better this year, especially if Anthony Richardson is able to stay healthy this season. But I think after that loss on home, it's going to kick the Steelers into high gear, and they're going to take that one in Indy. Plus, I think Russ on a fast track in that dome, I'll take him every day of the week in that one.
Yeah, I'm going to win there too. I got them 4-0 right now. You got them 3-1. I don't think Indianapolis is a challenge. I think they're a good team, but I think the Steelers are a better team, and I just don't think. Again, like it comes down to, I think these are good teams. If it was last year, it'd be like maybe you lose to the Colts. I think the Steelers are going to be more of a powerhouse this year, so I expect them to win better games against better opponents. I'm going 4-0. You got them at 3-1 at home. Sunday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys coming to town. Dak Prescott. I mean, Rich Eisen says future quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who you got?
This is when the national media starts looking at the Steelers and saying, man, Russell Wilson's going to take them to a Super Bowl because they're going to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And I think they're going to beat them handily on Sunday Night Football. I think they're going to make a statement there. And people are going to say, that back half of the schedule looks tough, but 4-1 with a win over the Cowboys. Maybe if they just would have played up to their opponent in LA, they could be 5-0 right now. So I think they beat the Cowboys, and I think that's the point where everybody's going to look at the Steelers and place some very high expectations on them.
Okay. I'm going 4-1 as well. I'm saying a loss though. I'm catching up. Here we are. Sunday Night Football, I think the Steelers are great in primetime. I think they win in primetime. I just think at some point you're due for a loss. You got a tough schedule ahead of you. You know, nobody goes perfect. I just think at some point you get kind of tired early in the season. You've been on the road a lot. You've been traveling to the West Coast. I'm going loss. I think that Dallas comes in here ready to roll. They just squeak one by. I think it's a close game, and I think Dallas, pulls it off. That's just how I feel. Raiders in Vegas, week 6.
Yeah, there's no way I'm picking the Raiders to beat the Steelers, just
No
in
chance.
general,
No
especially in
chance.
Vegas. We had some people in the chat say Atlanta is practically a home game. Las Vegas is a home game for the
Yes.
Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm taking the Steelers over the Raiders. They beat them last year when it was Jimmy G versus Kenny Pickett. It's Russell Wilson this year versus Gardner Minshew,
Gardner
maybe.
Minshew, the
So
Minshew show, baby.
yeah, so I'm going
Yeah.
to take the Steelers in that one.
Yeah, I'm going Steelers. There's no chance. There's just no. I'm sorry, but just like you said, it is like not somewhat a home game, a literal home game in Vegas. That place is going to be bumping. They're going to be 4-1. They're going to be winning. People are going to be fired up to see the Pittsburgh Steelers in Vegas. Sorry, Gardner Minshew just ain't doing it for me. Antonio Pierce, I hope he does well, but not against the Steelers. 5-1 here heading into week 7 versus the Jets, Sunday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers comes to town. Who you got?
I'm taking the Jets in this one. The Steelers lost to the Jets with Zach Wilson a couple years ago. So there's a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth already at an organizational level. And like you mentioned, you're winning a lot of these games. If I have them beating the Cowboys, I think they'll get a little bit high on after a Las Vegas win. And I think they're going to come down a little bit against Aaron Rodgers on Sunday or Monday Night Football, whichever prime time slot they're in that one.
They're in Sunday night that week, and then they go to the Giants, or they face the Giants on Monday night the week after. I'm going a Jets win as well. I don't feel good about this one. I think if the Steelers are going to pull off a win of my 2 losses between Dallas and New York, I think New York's the better team that they can beat. But again, I just think that it's a good situation for Aaron Rodgers. I expect them to be good enough to pull one off. I'm going, and you got to lose at some point. 5-2 heading into week 8 here. Monday Night Football, Giants. I mean, do we even have to say anything?
No, we don't have to say anything. Just mark it a win and move on to the bye week.
Yeah, win against the Giants. Bye week there. Week 10, your hometown there. I shouldn't say your hometown, but your current town. Your current town of Washington, D.C. The Commanders. Jaden Daniels. What you got?
I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one. I'm intrigued to see what Jaden Daniels is able to do. Sam Howell put up some big numbers last year in that Washington Commanders offense, but at the same time, it's still the Commanders. There's a better aura around the Commanders, but it's still the Commanders. And until they show it, I'm not going to pick them over the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially coming off of a bye when Mike Tomlin has that much time to prepare. So I'm taking the Steelers in that one.
Yeah, I'm going Steelers too. No chance. It's just easy win. Mike Tomlin's hometown, easy win. Just sorry, Commanders you're the second worst team in football. Jaden Daniels ain't making you a Super Bowl contender. Just ain't happening. Now it begins. This is when things get wild. The Baltimore Ravens at Acrisure Stadium, 1 p.m., week 11, the beginning of an absolutely brutal stretch.
I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens in this one. Ooh. I mean, the AFC North, the Steelers have had a really good record for a long time in the AFC North, especially since 2020. They've been really good interdivision. But I think that they're going to have a couple of losses on their schedule, especially considering how compact everything is. I think they kick it off with a loss against the Ravens, specifically because I just don't see them beating the Ravens twice in a row. But also, they kind of own M&T Bank Stadium. So if I'm going to give them one loss, it's going to be one at Acrisure.
Yeah, I'm actually going to switch it up. I'm going Ravens. I think the Ravens win this one. I don't feel good about it. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat. There's no way the Steelers lose twice to the Ravens. Let's just make that known. I'm not, so you could count the next one as a win. But I think that you're going to be tired. This is just the beginning of a brutal stretch. I'm actually you're going to see where I'm going with this. This gets rough for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm going Baltimore Ravens. Just the beginning of a tough stretch. Then you go Thursday Night Football in Cleveland, week 12.
I think they get their revenge from last year. It was the end of the Matt Canada era, and we thank Cleveland for doing that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think the Steelers get the Cleveland Browns back this year on Thursday night because seemingly every time they play in Cleveland's Thursday night, last year was like a weird mishap. But I think they take down Cleveland after losing to Baltimore the week before.
Okay, so think people are going to be mad at me. This is where I'm going to lose some fans here. I'm going loss to Cleveland, back to back. Boom, boom. Things are getting tough. The sirens are going a little bit. Things are getting nervous. I'm not saying it's over. It's far from over. It's far from over, but I was just a patch. Everybody hits a rough patch during the season. Every single good team hits a rough patch. Nobody ever doesn't hit a rough patch. And if you don't hit a rough patch, you're going to hit it in the playoffs. So here's the rough patch. Back-to-back losses, Ravens, Browns. I just think that the dog pound's going to be rowdy and loud, and I think they're going to get the best of them. Again, don't feel good about it, but that's where we are. Then they stay in the state of Ohio. I keep trying to call it a city. Maybe Ohio should be a city. They go to Cincinnati, week 13.
I'm taking the Steelers over the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, at that point, you've played 3 straight AFC North games. I think it's going to be a tough stretch there, but I do think that they pull that one out against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. Seems like they just play very well in the jungle, and I think they'll be able to do it again this year.
Okay, so people are going to be here. It is. This is where it's, I already got people in the comments blowing me up right now. It's going to get bad. I'm going to loss. Loss to the back-to-back losses in the AFC North. Sirens are going off. Things are loud. People are freaking out. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about, okay? They always have a dramatic stretch. Every year they have a dramatic. It's just there. It's part of their thing. I think Mike Tomlin enjoys it. I think the NFL script writers just that's their niche. Steelers freak out somehow, some way. 3 losses. It's not looking good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, you got to go through this right now, because if you don't, you're going to go through it in the wrong time of the year. Again, I am very high on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they are Super Bowl contenders. I think they are playoff contenders. I think they are a very, very good team. I think they lose 3 games in a row here. Ravens, Browns, Bengals. Then they go back home week 14 against the Browns.
Yeah, I'm going to take them over the Browns. I think this is the sweep that they have in the AFC North this year. I think that they have been too even with the Browns over the last couple of years, and I really have no faith in Deshaun Watson and that team going into this season. So I think the Steelers get their number this year, and I think because they have an actual offense this year, they'll be able to take down the Browns, whereas last year they split it, and it was still close when they had, as we mentioned, that horrible offense in Cleveland, and then they relied on their defense to score 14 points at home. So I think that with an actual offense, they take down the Browns for a second time.
Yeah. So this is where it comes around. Okay. You got to go through the stretch, light a fire. Mike Tomlin's got to give a speech. Things got to get rowdy. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about. I'm talking not a win against the Browns. I'm talking a smoke show against the Browns. This is a ridiculous blowout by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Things are alive. Steelers are well. Locker room's rowdy. We're back. This is it. Week 14. You had to go through the rough patch. I'm going win against the Browns, big win against the Browns. Then you go week 15. Things get crazy difficult from here. At the Philadelphia Eagles.
I already have them with 10 wins. I don't think they take down the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. I just think that at the beginning of this stretch, after going through all those AFC North opponents, to then go out against what should be a very good Philadelphia Eagles team, a much better and much improved Philadelphia Eagles team, I think they fall on the road in this one.
Yes, I agree. I think you fall to the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think it's a very promising loss. Like, I think this is the matchup of the week loss. A Russell Wilson shows everybody, like, damn, dude, the Steelers are real. Like, they could compete with every good team there possibly is. I think it's in Philly. You get the upper hand there. I think it's a loss. All right. Going into week 16, Saturday game in Baltimore.
Maybe you actually make it to this one, and I think the Steelers win this one because I think they've played very well at M&T Bank Stadium down in Baltimore for a long time now, and I think that Patrick Queen returning, Deshaun Elliott returning, I think those guys are going to be up, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers take this one and try to get back on that track there with a win against the Baltimore Ravens in their yearly win down at M&T.
That's what I'm saying. At some point, you're going to lose, you're going to win. It's part of the grind. I think they beat the Baltimore Ravens in MNT. This is it. You know what I mean? This is like we're like, this is playoff talks are real. These are happening. The Steelers sitting pretty. The AFC is looking a little rougher than it should expect. Steelers are winning. Big win in Baltimore. 4 days later, they play the Chiefs on Christmas at Acrisure. Who you got?
After playing the Baltimore Ravens, whether they beat them or not, they're going to be beat up. And to go in against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and an actual wide receiver core this year. I mean, they won a Super Bowl without wide receivers last year. Now you add Marquise Hollywood Brown, you add Xavier Worthy. If those guys are clicking on all cylinders and if the weather cooperates, I don't see the Steelers being able to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, especially on a 4 days rest after taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I have them losing, and simply because I think Taylor Swift beats Ciara on Christmas Day, and I think that's the way the script writers want it.
Look, and I agree with that. I think the script writers know what they're doing here. I think the Chiefs win this one. But again, I think this is a Philly game. This is a game where the Steelers look really good, where this is a really close game where, Patrick Mahomes just barely gets the best of you. I think this is where people start to talk about, are the Steelers the next Bills? Are they the team that's going to compete in the AFC to beat the Chiefs? I think this is the game that does it. I look at the Chiefs as a win, but still, I got them sitting at 9-7 right now. What do you got them sitting at? Heading into
10-5.
10-5. Jeez Louise. And then versus the Cincinnati Bengals rounded out week 18.
Oh, sorry, I have them at 11-5 or I have them as losing to the Cincinnati Bengals to close out the season. I have them losing 3 of the last 4 games, finishing the year with an 11-6 record.
Wow. Okay. I go win against the Cincinnati Bengals, get into the playoffs, feel real good. I think 10-7 can win you the AFC North. I think as crazy as that sounds, I think 10-7 can win you the AFC North. I think the AFC is going to be a gauntlet this year, and I think that 10-7 is a good place to be. Yeah, I'm going win against Cincinnati Bengals, finish 10-7. This is a good year. 10-7 with this record or with this schedule is you have done things that you should not have done.
I mean, the Steelers finished what, 3rd place in the AFC North, and this is their schedule. Imagine what 2nd and 1st place schedules look like. Like, I haven't looked in depth at what the Cleveland Browns schedule and what the Baltimore Ravens schedule looks like, but inherently it should be just as tough, if not tougher, than the Steelers. I think there was a strength of schedule that went out that had the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens having the 3 toughest strength of schedules going into the season, which doesn't mean everything, but it certainly is something to take into account.
Yes, I think that this is, people could get upset, and they do every year. But every time you do something like this, people are like, what are you talking about? They're going to lose. Look at teams lose. Nobody goes undefeated. Nobody, and you don't want a team to go. Nobody should sit around going, I'm open 17-0 is the record. Because at that point, your chance to win the Super Bowl are almost 0. It's just not going to happen. You're going to lose at some point. Lose them early. Get in there. Get hot when you want to get hot. I think a win against Cincy at home, you got some momentum. Maybe you knock Cincy out of the playoffs. Boom. Let's go from there. I think it's a good place to be. 10-7. You got them at 11-6. So I think it's good. I was expecting a crazier. When you said it's better than 10-7, I was like, wow, dude, is he about to put like a 14-win season on the Steelers right now? That's big. It's a big ask.
I put 11-6, and then I looked at that tail end and I said, I don't know how I got them to 11-6, losing 3 of their last 4. But hey, that early portion of the season, you got to cook.
You got to cook, and that's the biggest thing. You got to cook.